Live from WXOU at Oakland University, it's the GioMoShow. Now, give it up for your host, GioMoShow.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the GioMoShow from WXOU Sports. My name is GioMoShow, and the GioMoShow is your home for all Oakland sports and beyond from WXOU. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to help support the show all the ways that you can, especially as our Golden Grizzlies are back in action. The sports have finally started. Soccer and volleyball are in action right now. Club sports are coming back as well. We got a whole lot to talk about, so now's the time to get with the GioMoShow. Rate, review, and subscribe. Use the hashtag #TheGioMoShow to get involved with the show. For those listening, that's hashtag the GioMo Show. Follow the show on social media at the same thing, the GioMo Show, and follow me on Twitter as well at GioMoShow, WXOU. We got a whole lot of stuff coming up, but first I want to address those that are watching, and maybe for some of those noticing listeners. I'm at home right now, as I thought this would be the week that the station would be under its regular summer, or would be done with its regular summer hours, going into the fall semester hours where it'd be open a little bit later, and that new show time of 8 o'clock would be actually doable, but unfortunately that moves to next Tuesday. So we're here at home, and I'm trying my best to make sure it doesn't look like a child's bedroom here. This is a man's bedroom right here. So for those listening, I got some hats coming in the background, DCFC, the Tennessee Vols, Diamond Hoppers. I got my sign that I brought to Pittsburgh when Oakland beat Kentucky that writes, Campy's hair is better than Cal's. So I just like to actually get to show this stuff off when I'm at home here as well. And yes, it's painted in Lions colors. But now that we got that all addressed here, and at a last point here, this in a home setting, in a bed, and just kind of in someone's room, that's how our local sports radio station does their podcast. A lot of them are from home. So yeah, this is kind of the business status quo right now. But enough with that. We got a whole lot of stuff to talk about here on the GioMoShow. As I mentioned, Oakland sports are back. Men's and women's soccer have already gotten their regular season started, and volleyball is just around the corner as they're going to be heading away to Buffalo for a 3-game tournament there. So we'll get into all of that, and we'll also finally be able to talk about the Detroit Lions, because I made it a decision, and I did it on purpose, to not talk about the Lions, not really talk about the NFL much during the summer, because we all know that it's nonsense to talk about stuff like in June or July, to talk about stuff in the NFL. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's a waste of time, because so much changes until the regular season starts. And I got other stuff to talk about other than NFL nonsense. But that nonsense period is done. We're here at the start of the season. The Lions, or the NFL rather, gets started next week. So we'll be talking about the Detroit Lions and some of the NFL stuff as well, but not before our Golden Grizzlies. But before we get into that, we'll take a pause here for some messages from our friends of the GioMoShow.
Before we get back to the show, let me tell you about Bart's Pizza. Bart Basilico reinvented his father's pizzeria business by putting it on wheels. I'm talking a pizza food truck, baby. Bart and his wife Lauren travel all around Metro Detroit, cooking up homemade pies made fresh to order in their 4-layered pizza oven on wheels. You can find them on their website at eatbartspizza.com and Facebook and Instagram as well at Bart's Pizza. His last name is literally Basil, so you know he knows what he's doing. Make sure to grab a cannoli as well while you're there. Bart's Pizza, it's too good.
And we're back here on the GioMoShow. Appreciate you guys sticking around here. We're going to get into now the Oakland sports, the new Oakland sports. We don't have to do season reviews anymore. We don't have to keep the show moving with interviews, even though I love doing those interviews. But we finally have new sports to talk about. The semester is just a week away from starting, but some of the fall sports have already gotten underway. You see on social media that the cross-country team is starting to get their miles in, or rather their last miles in before the season starts, because they don't stop. I don't know if you guys know runners very much. You don't really stop, and you just kind of keep stacking miles until you can do the funny thing where, like, oh, I ran into Chicago in the whole month of June, stuff like that. So they keep going, but their season's starting to get going as well. But I wanted to take my focus to soccer and volleyball. And luckily that I've been working with the Michigan Soccer Network for I think like 6 months now, 5-6 months now. I know a little bit about soccer, at least a little bit more than I used to back when I was covering them in 2023, 2022. And I don't even think I don't even know the show existed in 21, at least not in its sports form. But I finally have a little bit of wherewithal when it comes to soccer, so I'm excited to finally cover them in and throughout their season. But we'll get started first with volleyball. A little bit later on the news for volleyball is because they just finished up their exhibition part of the season, and their regular season is going to be starting what is the date? That'll be starting this Friday, August 30th, as they travel to the University of Buffalo for the Buffalo Invite. But to just glance over a little bit, they had the black and gold scrimmage as their first kind of christening of the blacktop for this season. They got, it was a black team versus the gold team, and gold team rules, of course, as the gold team won it 3-1, and they had another exhibition against Bowling Green at Bowling Green, losing that one in a sweep 3-0. But those are exhibition, okay? We all know, and if you guys don't know, when it comes to exhibition stuff, Oakland University men's basketball, as I just previously mentioned, from that sign, they beat Kentucky last year in March Madness. That same Oakland team lost to Walsh University. The Division II Walsh University Cavaliers lost to them at home, but still ended up doing what they did this season. So that's how little exhibition matters in terms of projecting how the team goes. But it's all they got so far, so I mentioned it. Big deal. So the gold team rules. If you guys want to know more about the volleyball team, I did a season review of them earlier this summer. I got a playlist on YouTube right here dedicated specifically to the season reviews that we did over this summer. I got them all categorized for you guys there. So if you want to get warmed up, get a heads up as to their last season, give you some context, then I would suggest that you guys go to that after the show here. So as it currently stands, 0-0 is their record as they get ready to start with a blank slate. They go to the University of Buffalo for the Buffalo Invite against, Buffalo. They also face Army and Hampton University in that trip. And then they also go to the EMU tournament where they face George Washington University, Marshall University, and of course Eastern Michigan. The Golden Grizzlies volleyball team does not come home until Friday, September 13th, as they host Sacramento State. You guys, as students, have free access and free tickets to go to any of these Oakland games. So be sure to go and cheer on volleyball as they get things going in the arena. And you get to hear Kevin Beers get his voice warmed up for his 20th season here with the Golden Grizzlies. And with volleyball, it's a lot of fun. So definitely encourage you guys to go and check out volleyball Friday, September 13th at the arena. The OU Credit Union Arena. I got to get used to saying that now. So before we get into women's soccer, I want to remind you guys to subscribe to WXOU Sports on YouTube. That is where all of our stations, content, and broadcasts will be found. We do audio live streams of the broadcast that we do on the sidelines of the arena, of the Oakland soccer field. Wherever we are, baseball, softball, we're on the sidelines there, and you can find the live streams of the audio on YouTube, and you can also stream it or listen to it in the traditional radio sense, 88.3 FM, as well as WXOU.org/live is where you can tune in to get your Golden Grizzly sports for free from WXOU. So I encourage you to go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. So now let's get into women's soccer. They actually have a couple of games under their belt for this season under the new leadership and head coach of Devin Vosek. I think it's the V you pronounced and not the Z. But coach, if you're watching, you got to let me know here because it's spelled ZV Osek. So I'm doing my best here. I think it's Vosek. But as we were talking here, they have a couple of games under their belt so far. And not only just exhibition, but they have 3 regular season out-of-conference games under their belt so far. But I want to start with some of the breaking news and some of the, or rather bigger news for these teams. I want to try and follow more of a consistent pattern when it comes to me covering these teams. So I'll start with the news here as the Horizon League released their preseason poll for for women's soccer. They're the same for men's soccer, but we'll cover that in just a little bit. But the preseason poll ranks Oakland University 7th place in the Horizon League out of 11 teams. All 11 teams have women's soccer. Oakland landing in 7th place, which is where they left off last season after they took a loss to rival Detroit Mercy in the last game of the regular season, costing them a spot in the tournament, as soccer only has the top 6 teams continue into the tournament. That last year's matchup was the deciding factor of who gets that 6th place spot. Unfortunately, Oakland did not get it, thus probably factoring in to how they get to returning at 7th place in the preseason poll. Meanwhile, number 1 is taken by Milwaukee. No doubt, they're one of the best teams and have been an absolute powerhouse in the Horizon League for women's soccer for as long as I've been at Oakland. So that's just kind of how business is with Milwaukee. A couple of years ago, they had like a literally undefeated season in conference, and they had 1 loss during the regular season. So Milwaukee is cooking usually when it comes to their women's soccer, so nothing unusual there. So now we'll get into some of the games that they played here this week. Or rather, I guess this is the past couple of weeks here, just most of the month of August. They had exhibitions against Valparaiso and Eastern Michigan, losing to Eastern Michigan 1-0. I don't think they ever ended up playing Valparaiso because there's no score posted. But when it came to the regular season, they hosted University of North Dakota, where the teams tied a 1-1. And as my Michigan Soccer Network co-host Dan Stickrad likes to say, it's the kiss your sister tie 1-1, which he loves using that phrase on air, but it's just nobody likes a tie, but that's what Oakland had. And scoring the first goal of the season was Frankie Mudd in the 25th minute. And if you guys watch the highlights on Golden Grizzlies, she beat the keeper and literally just walked it in. There was nobody else behind. All she had to do was take a couple of dribbles, knock that thing in to equalize the match, and thus Oakland, holding off any other goals, ended up with the tie 1-1. Oakland had 14 shots and 5 of them on frame during that match. Meanwhile, North Dakota only had 5 shots on goal and 5 shots, 1 on goal, and that 1 went in the 2nd minute of play. So Oakland had opportunities later in the game, couldn't find the back of the net, and left it at a 1-1 final score against the University of North Dakota. Now we get into their road trips. They had a couple of Ohio games. They started with the University of Akron, where they lost 1-0, and then they visited the Kent State Golden Flashes from the MAC, or both of them are from the MAC, I should say. And that one ended in a 4-0 loss for Oakland University. So Devin Vosek and the Golden Grizzlies are still looking for their first win of the season. There's still plenty left to go, so not to be worried, not to be discouraged so far. They start off the regular season 0-3-1, yet to play any conference games, but they got some home games coming up for you guys as well. This Thursday, August 29th, it will be OU Recwell Day, as they will host Illinois State University. I believe the Redbirds is their mascot, because it looks like a cardinal, but not a cardinal, and there's too many cardinals. I think it's the Redbirds. But they will be hosting them at 5 o'clock, August 29th, this Thursday. And then they will also be hosting this Sunday, September 1st. They'll be hosting Northern Illinois University, a team that they faced last year in non-conference play. That one, I think, was even earlier in August. And the Golden Grizzlies had a tough fight in that one, too. So we got 2 great home games for women's soccer coming up for you guys. If you're students, be sure to go and cheer on your Golden Grizzlies. And if you're part of Recwell, there's free admission for employees and external members. They're starting to celebrate. Sunday is club day, where youth clubs and under 12 are able to get into the game and kind of share the love of the beautiful game with the community. So that'll wrap it up for women's soccer before we get into men's soccer and wrap up the Golden Grizzlies sports section of the JoMo Show. And before we get into the NFL, I want to tell you about Jake's Takes. If you want more in-depth coverage and commentary, or even more interviews with coaches and athletes, and Jake's Takes is the place to be. Jake Masucci, who is one of the managers of the Golden Grizzlies men's basketball team, hosts Jake's Takes, where he's now in the middle of his college athletes and college coaches series, or rather just coaches series. He's got a lot of interviews coming up, and if for you Golden Grizzlies fans, he's also interviewed Baru Nevalarua of the men's basketball team, as well as assistant coach Bobby Norbert. So if that's something you're interested, he also talked to Chris Conway all the way from Washington. If that's stuff that's interesting to you, then be sure to go and subscribe to Jake's Takes. However you get your podcast, go and follow him on Instagram at Jake's Takes with a dot after K. That is at Jake's Takes, a dot after K. That's where you're going to find him on Instagram with the yellow logo. So go and subscribe to Jake's Takes. And now let's finally get into men's soccer and wrap up this Golden Grizzlies sports section here. As similar to the women's soccer, the men's soccer team has had their preseason polls voted on by the Horizon League, and the Golden Grizzlies remain on top. The reigning regular season champions of the Horizon League, they maintain their number one spot, although, according to the poll, it's a very crowded top half of the league for the Horizon League. As Oakland University is in first place with 75 votes. Cleveland State is 73. And then below them, tied for third, is Green Bay, the reigning tournament champions, as well as IUPUI tied with 71. So only a few votes are the gap for the top four teams in the league, but Oakland still does make the number one spot in the preseason poll. They are returning 3 all-league selections. That being Jace Foster as part of the all-league first team, and 2 members of the previous freshman team, Carson Bawa and Noah Roca, who we've seen a little bit during the offseason on the Michigan Soccer Network. They played on some of the clubs that we covered. Specifically, Carson Bawa, I think, was on Inter Detroit in the Midwest Premier League, but correct me if I'm wrong. We covered a whole lot this summer for MSN, but Oakland's got some power coming back, but who's not coming back is former head coach Eric Pogue. It will be Coach Paul Doro, former assistant coach, now interim head coach of the Golden Grizzlies. Paul Doro will be running the show for the Golden Grizzlies this season as they try to defend the regular season title and hope to gain and regain that regular season championship that just eluded them last year against Green Bay. So a lot going into this season. They got a couple of regular season games under their belts. Their club day was this past August 22nd, where they hosted University of Nebraska at Omaha. That one was also club day. The women's soccer had the same thing as I was mentioning before. That one ended in a 1-2 loss for the Golden Grizzlies. And then they traveled to Ann Arbor to face the Wolverines, a team that they beat last year at the Oakland soccer field. We covered it on WXOU. I was on the call with Harja Butar, and it was a fantastic game, very thrilling. Donovan Phillip had the game-winning goal, I think with 5 minutes left to go, with a crossing header that knocked it in. Malik Sylvester got the first goal of the game to get them the 2 goals they had. And it was a lot of fun to watch. I think we got highlights all the way at the beginning of the WXOU sports page. So if you want to see some archives, and that, I would suggest you go and watch me and Harj. I had an interview with Donovan Phillip after the game, and our microphones weren't turned on, so we had to use just the camera audio that was catching a whole bunch of background. But it was a lot of fun to do. So for now, this year's rematch in Ann Arbor, it went the opposite way. The Wolverines beat the Golden Grizzlies 2-1, where in that match, it was Michigan that struck first in the 28th minute by Jason. Jason, let me zoom in because it's tiny text. Jason Bucknor scored in the 28th minute, and it would be Jack Klomperens of the Golden Grizzlies that would equalize it in the 41st minute, setting it into a tie match going into halftime. But unfortunately, in the 56th minute, one squeaked through as Grayson Elmquist of the Wolverines put it to the back of the net, giving them the 2-1 lead, that being the game-winning goal for the Wolverines. It was a bit of an even match in terms of the stats here. Oakland had 8 shots. University of Michigan had 7. U of M had 4 shots on goal, though. That was advantage to the Golden Grizzlies. They only had 1, and that one was the shot that got it in for Klomperens. But other than that, Oakland would give up 5 corner kicks and only have 1. Meanwhile, the fouls would stay at even. So it was a bit of an even match when you look at the box score, but for soccer, the box score only tells you so much. You'd have to watch the game yourself, but I don't have Big Ten Network, or I don't have Big Ten Plus, so I had to go by word of mouth for that one. And now getting into the details of the previous game, because I skipped over it, whoops. against University of Nebraska at Omaha. It would be Omaha that scored first in the 42nd minute. Oakland in the second half would then equalize it in the 58th minute by Andre Billos, before Oakland would unfortunately give up a goal in the 82nd minute, giving Omaha the game-winning goal and the game. For the stats here, Oakland had a lot more shots than Omaha. They had a 14-8 advantage, but it got a lot closer when it came to shots on goal, 6-5 in favor of the Golden Grizzlies. But other than that, most of the stats pretty even across the board, and it just ended up not going the Golden Grizzlies' way as they still look to find their first win of the season under head coach Paul Doro. So for some of the games that they got coming up, I didn't put it in my notes, so we're going to search it up right now. There. So coming up for the Golden Grizzlies, they will be going on the road to Butler University on Friday at 7 o'clock before they come home next Friday, September 6th, against former Horizon League member UIC. They come to the Oakland soccer field Friday, 7 o'clock, September 6th is the place to be. It is to welcome back all students. And there will be activities for students at the game, so be sure to get down there. And then Monday, September 9th, I won't go too much farther in the calendar than here. September 9th, Monday at 7 o'clock, they will be hosting the Michigan State Spartans as well. That one will be Military and First Responders Appreciation Night. So be sure to get out there to the Oakland soccer field and to the arena for all the Golden Grizzlies action that's going to be coming up in the early month of September or this last week of August. A lot going on, so be sure to go on and cheer on your Golden Grizzlies. And that one will wrap up our coverage of the Golden Grizzlies this week. I'm so glad we got new stuff to cover this time because it is, listen, the summer for sports, it's a drag. And when you watch shows and you listen to podcasts about sports, listen, everyone knows it's a dead period. I try my best to leave the nonsense out of it with reviews and giving you guys context for what happened and all that kind of stuff. But man, it's just so nice to finally have new sports to talk about. It makes my job a whole lot easier. I just got to look up the schedule, the scores, and keep up to date with it as I go as we roll here on the GioMoShow. So we're going to take a break here for halftime before we talk about the Detroit Lions and finally a little bit of NFL stuff as that has exited the nonsense period as well. So we'll be right back here on the GioMoShow. One final note from the show. I forgot to mention this near the intro, but club sports are back. I did mention it in the original, but we got a lot of club sports that are already have their schedules out, that already are ready to roll here. And I want to specify club football here because we're going to be covering them on WXOU. We'll have live broadcasts of all 5 of the home games that they have in this season. We'll start September 14th. And then it will continue into league play on the 28th, I believe. Those games include against Wright State. It includes against Milwaukee, Michigan State. Okay, we got some great matchups for the club football team looking to bounce back from a tough season. We'll be talking to the football team next week here on the GioMoShow before their first home game comes across at the Elaine Lay Track and Field Complex, which is the upper fields for those who are familiar with Oakland's campus. It's the football field. If you're driving past the apartments, that's where the football field is at. That's where action takes place. That's where you go and support your Golden Grizzlies because that's where the football is when it comes to Auburn Hills or the Rochester area. That's where football is. It's free attendance. It's real tackle football, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have live broadcasts for that on WXOU, as mentioned before. You guys can go out and cheer on your teams as well. Women's soccer, after coming off of a national tournament bout in Round Rock, Texas. They have their schedule out. Be sure to go follow those teams on social media. I'll have all the social medias of the club teams linked here, as well as Grizzorgs if you guys want to get involved or just see a game of these club teams. It's a great way to support those who continue their sport out of nothing but love for the game. You don't give scholarships for club sports, and there's not a lot going around in terms of money for supplies and travel. So these athletes do it for the love of the game. And what better way to show that love for the game than by showing your love for the game? And by showing up and showing out, sharing their schedule, getting your friends to go, make an event out of it. Even if you got a friend on the team, go there, make a sign, say, "Go Kelly," or whoever your friend is. make club sports a little bit part of your school routine. How does it sound? So I wanted to make sure I got that club sports little segment in here for the JoMo Show. We'll have that interview with football next week, so be sure to subscribe not to miss that, as that one's going to be a lot of fun. So that'll wrap up this little clip of the JoMo Show here. We'll continue with the sports. Welcome back here to the JoMo Show. Be sure to subscribe right here on YouTube and wherever else you are listening, wherever you get your podcasts. The JoMo Show has its own Instagram page at the GioMo Show. And be sure to get involved with the show by using the hashtag, the GioMo Show. We just wrapped up talking about the Golden Grizzlies as men's and women's soccer and volleyball got kicked off for their seasons. A couple of new head coaches for the soccer teams trying to find their first win, and Oakland volleyball looking to play their first game as they go to Buffalo this weekend. So where that leaves us into the beyond part of our Oakland Sports and Beyond of the JoMo Show, we finally get to talk about the Detroit Lions once again. It's been a while since we've talked about them. As I mentioned before, I don't like to do off-season nonsense, but we're a week away from the NFL, so thus the nonsense has expired, and this is now real football talk. It now actually has a little bit of weight and hopefully some prediction accuracy. So we'll get into it here, and I don't have a particular guide for this. I'm just going to try and give you guys my general thoughts as to what I think of the team now and kind of where we're at. I'm not going to do a whole season prediction. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to do the whole, like, who gets MVP and, the classic season prediction stuff. I've done it in previous years. It has not gone well, but we will keep you guys up to date with my pick'ems of each week, as I'm still in a pick'em league and I'm going to use them for content. So each week at the end of the show, I'm going to give you guys my pick'ems for the week of the NFL, and we'll see and kind of keep track of how well I'm doing throughout the season. I thought that was a lot of fun to do, so I'm gonna keep doing it, and it also keeps me reminded to do it if the show is leaning on it. So keep up to date and keep excited for that part of the JoMo Show. We'll end with pick'ems each week. So as far as the Lions go, I am of course excited. I have been looking at that Sports Illustrated cover for quite some time. I've been looking for it whenever I'm out and about. I don't really know where they sell magazines anymore. Now, I don't want to sound like a stupid kid who's 22 years old and hasn't had to buy a magazine and since it was Zoo Books when they came in the mail back in the day. I still love Zoo Books. Animals are the best. But if you guys know where you can find a copy of Sports Illustrated, please let me know. I would love to have a copy of that, but luckily we just have the cover photo for now. But I'm still excited for that. That's still all I need to get excited for this team. I mean, because I haven't talked about it doesn't mean I haven't been excited. I just try to okay, let's see where the dust settles before the weeks start. So looking a little bit at last season, I tried to block out a lot of the pain from the NFC Championship. We hosted it at our place, big watch party for it. My brother was at the watch party at Ford Field. He came back with a sweet poster of Sewell in the background, and Goff and St. Brown, same guys on the cover of the magazine. But I try to block out a lot of that pain, and I just kind of leave myself with the takeaway of, okay, we're really close and we didn't get worse, so we should be better, or at least have a better shot of holding on to a lead should we get in that situation again. I hope we have learned our lesson for that. But for the most part, I've been kind of blocking out the pain of that one. But when it comes to now this season, we're talking about some of the draft and the free agent pickups, I will be honest with you guys. This recent draft class for the Detroit Lions, it's just not grabbing me. I don't know. It's just not grabbing me because of the emphasis of corners and secondary. And yes, we absolutely needed it. It's not like we picked Jeff Okuda third round again. Okay, listen, we needed that. But I kind of hold back on my excitement because I don't always expect rookie corners to be immediate impact players. It takes a little bit, I think, for some of those corners to really develop and to really become huge contributing factors on a defense, and especially one that is already coming in with a big weakness. I just heard we gave up 8 yards a pass. last year on defense, second worst in the NFL. So I'm holding back on my optimism for the rookie corners. Now, I love the guys, Terry Arnold and Rakestraw. I forgot Rakestraw's first name, but I want to let them be rookies because with the huge power and the huge skill level that a lot of these receivers have, and even the young ones coming into the league, the skill floor is very high for those receivers. So I would imagine it takes a little bit for the new corners to adjust to that. So I want to hold back my big optimism and hype for those rookies. I want to let them and give them a chance to be rookies. Am I going to get upset if they give up a big touchdown to lose us a game? Yeah, but I think that just kind of comes with the territory. What I am excited for is more of the free agent additions to this, because this is really, I think, the first time that Brad Holmes has really dug into free agency and made some big moves. Now, it's not the big flashy moves. It's not the big headline and talk about it on the same show for 5 segments a week, every week. It's not one of those. But DJ Reader, I can look at that just on its own. If he is healthy, and I haven't done the research for it, but I'm pretty sure both of his quads exploded at one point. If he's healthy, given his performance at Cincinnati, and given the then related performance of his edge rusher, Trey Hendrickson, then man, I'm really, really excited for what he could bring to this D-line. Oh, because it's not like he's coming into a D-line where he's the only guy. No, you got Aleem McNeil and you got Aiden Hutchinson in addition to that defensive line. And you got kind of whoever else wants to be the other bookend edge rusher, whether it's going to be the guy from the Canadian League or whether it's going to be Marcus Davenport. I don't know who's going to be filling that role. But already you got 3 really, really good players of the 4 spots on your D-line, of Hutchinson, of Reader, and of McNeil. And having a strong defensive line, you see it all over the NFL of how huge of an impact that a good defensive line can make any team. Because if you guys remember, the 49ers are just an awesome defensive line. They're a factory of defensive line with Nick Bosa, and they switch around a lot of the guys on the inside season to season, but they're still a really good defensive line. And if you remember also the Eagles that went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, that was a monster defensive line. So you can do a lot with a good defensive line. And now the Lions have a much improved defensive line, because you're not going to run the ball. You couldn't even run the ball last year. Now you're really not going to be able to run the ball. And that's huge. And I think that was a reason why our defense was able to kind of hold together throughout the season and even get us to as far into the playoffs as we did, despite the bad secondary. And a good defensive line can mask a bad defensive backfield. And I think that it can, feed back into the rookies that we were talking about. I think that can help them not have to cover as long. And it helps you kind of, get back, or not get back, but get into the groove of the NFL when you're not on an island for 9-10 seconds. And God forbid we send a linebacker on a blitz and he just disappears and he just digs a hole underground and waits for the next play. Because we don't blitz well on linebackers. We do safety blitz as well. As we saw, I think it was a Fatu Melifon where we had a couple of sacks, maybe against the Vikings. I'm going off the top of my head here. I don't know. But that improved defensive line is going to be fantastic. And and it's not only just that it's effective and it's foundational and it's a really important part of football, but I think back to when the Lions, early 2010s, had a fantastic defense where you had names like Ndamukong Suh. Of course, Ndamukong Suh would be the first one. But you also got Ziggy Ansah. You got Cliff Averill. And who else am I missing? Kyle Vanden Bosch, Nick Fairley. I'm not saying these are Hall of Fame dudes, but all those guys were on the same team together for a few years. And that defense was amazing. We had other pieces than the defensive line, but I love the feeling and the intimidation that a good defensive line provides. Just knowing that all those offensive linemen are sweating the idea of having to go against that defensive line for another play all the way down a drive, hopefully a shortened drive. But the idea of those guys shaking in their boots saying, what do I do? What am I supposed to do? I got Aleem McNeil, I got DJ Reader right in front of me, double teaming me, basically. Please get me some help. Meanwhile, the tackle is saying, I got Hutchinson to deal with, and he keeps spinning on me going in and outside. I love the idea of those offensive linemen saying, what are we supposed to do? And what they're supposed to do is do what you can. I don't know, this is one phrase I loved from John Randall when he was talking about, I'm going off random clips I see from Instagram, but yeah, John Randall was talking about Larry Allen from the Cowboys back in the 90s. There's like, what am I supposed to do? He goes, do what you can. Anyway, I love that phrase, but I just love that intimidation that comes with a good defensive line. But I say all of this and I focus on the defensive line, not ignoring the free agent improvements that we made to that secondary, as we got ourselves Amik Robertson and Carlton Davis and not Cam Sutton. I believe addition by subtraction when it comes to Sutton is going to be a big deal here. And to put some veterans on that spot that don't, I'll hold back on that comment, but to finally get some veteran presence and some good veteran presence on that side, whether they're fantastic or not, I still think the defensive line is going to be the bigger piece, but that helps, and it shows attention to the need, and it shows that Brad Holmes can get free agents. I'm not saying the crop for cornerbacks was huge this year, but we got what we could, and we improved, and I think we're ready to go for an average defense. All I need is an average. You can even go down to maybe not average, which would be 16th. If you go 18th ranked defense, I think that's enough. I do think that's enough, especially with the offense that we have, which hopefully with Jamison Williams, hopefully living up to what we're talking about, what people are talking about. Because if he doesn't, the wide receiver room's kind of shaky. But that offense is enough for you to have an average to below average defense. Just not one of the worst. Just don't have one of the worst units in the league, and I think we'll be fine. And I'm very excited for it. And I'm ready to go here. You guys see my room. You guys see the colors. And if you don't, it's blue. For those watching, it's blue. It's Honolulu blue and silver in this room, baby, ever since I was 12. But I'm ready to go. I'm very excited. And what really hit me now that it's starting to become football season here is, it's not so much this week. I'm going to talk about weather here, but it wasn't much this week because it's hot as hell. But last week when it was getting to like 60 degrees, it was kind of flirting with the 50s. There was one moment where, I eat fruit at lunch. I bit into an apple. And I looked out, and I knew that cold breeze was there, and it just hit me. The fall is back. Football is back. Cider donut season is back. I was so excited when I bit into that apple and felt that cool chill. I'm excited for fall. I love the nice weather. But man, fall, you got bonfire season, hoodie season, football, cider, apple season. I'm ready to go for this fall, man. I'm really excited. I hope you guys are too. I know some are always sad that, it's getting darker earlier and it's getting a little colder, but as long as it's not freezing, I like that temperature where it's like about 60 with a chill. Maybe you can wear a sweatshirt. Maybe you might consider sweatpants, you know what I mean? Or you could do the sweatshirt and shorts kind of thing to keep you, both warm and cold. It's the season for that. You don't sweat. I love it so much. I'm very excited for it, along with all the sports that comes with it. And I'm ready to go. I hope you guys are too. And if you are, let me know in the comments if you guys are ready to roll for this fall season, whether it's for the Golden Grizzlies or whether it's for the NFL or whatever other sport you've been waiting all summer for. If it's the NBA and it's for college basketball, Oh, I get that, baby. I get that for sure. So that's going to wrap up the JoMo show here. Didn't go the full hour as we probably would have if we were at WXOU, but if you saw on Twitter, not open until next week for the new show time of 8 o'clock. So next week we'll do all we can to get back into the studio. If not, we'll be back here in the room. But I appreciate you guys all watching here. Be sure to subscribe. Follow me on social media. Do all the things you can to support the podcast. Go Golden Grizzlies. Go Lions. Go Fall. Go Fall season. We'll see you guys next week on the JoMo Show.